Have you ever done something that's against your better judgment? Maybe you unintentionally ate those Butterfingers you were saving for Halloween. Or you called your ex in the middle of the night to work things out, or maybe you got angry one day and told your boss the truth as you see it. Goethe has said, "Love and desire are the spirit's wings to great deeds." But sometimes our desires lead us to deeds that aren't so great. Jonathan Haidt of the University of Virginia, in his book The Happiness Hypothesis, writes about two aspects of the brains, an emotional side and a rational side. To illustrate how it works practically, he uses the metaphor of an elephant and its rider, which to my ears sounds like Plato's charioteer and winged horses. The rider is the rational brain, and the elephant is the emotional actor, or what economists call the planner and the doer. Ostensibly, the rider is directing the elephant, but anytime the elephant wants to go in a different direction than the rider, the huge elephant wins. When emotions and reasons compete, the emotions almost always wins. This is not necessarily because you're lazy. In fact, it could be because you've been working with your rational brain more than most. This is in part because self-control is an inexhaustible resource. Laziness is often just mental exhaustion. Chip and Dan Heath, in their book Switch, write, "The research shows that we burn up self-control in a wide variety of situations. Managing the impression we're making on others, coping with fears, controlling our spending, trying to focus on simple instructions such as don't think of the white bear, and many, many others." It's no wonder that at the end of a workday, particularly after we've been choosing our words and actions carefully, perhaps to make the greatest impact on students, when we know that we should go to that CrossFit class, but we end up at the Buffalo Hot Wings happy hour. That's one reason that getting the important stuff done, like that spin class and a spinach smoothie, in the morning is such a smart strategy. If good habits aren't your first love, those things closest to your heart, then the things that take willpower to do should be done before you become mentally fatigued. Willpower can be developed, but it's easier to direct that elephant early rather than fight it later. If you can't face your healthy behaviors while you're fresh, then it's best to rely on small, healthy habits that don't require willpower. Often, one healthy behavior is better than a few. One clear path without many choices to exhaust the intellect is usually more productive than a broad-based approach. Marketing research has shown over and over that if a customer has too many choices, then they won't buy anything at all. A customer is much more likely to buy a product if there are only 2 or 3 options. Then, if there are 20 options, all of different quality and price, it's too overwhelming for the average shopper. In 2000, Steve Booth Butterfield and Bill Rager of the University of West Virginia wanted to test marketing strategies to get the people in the community to eat a healthier diet. To tell people to eat healthier gives too many choices to be efficacious. They knew that to be effective, they had to make their message crystal clear. So they focused on just one way to improve the diet. Since most people in the community drank milk, the researchers started an ad campaign to switch from whole milk to 1% milk. It's important to note that the campaign used emotional appeals to persuade the community. They showed how whole milk has as much fat as 5 strips of bacon, which for some evokes a yuck reaction. They didn't just rely on a dry, rational reading of the facts. Before the campaign, the market share of low-fat milk was 18%. After the campaign, it was 41%. 6 months later, it held at 35%. The conclusion of the study did note that members of the community were less likely to stick with the low-fat milk without the reminders of a campaign. Chip and Dan Heath recommend that you do 3 things to keep that elephant on the right path. First, direct the rider or intellect with crystal clear direction. Keep the goals simple without lots of options and variety. Keep one simple path that avoids forks in the road. Second, motivate your elephant with an emotional appeal. Drinking 1% milk, or better yet, a green smoothie is better for most people's health than whole milk, and you should check with your doctor to see what's best for you, but you're not as likely to make a daily change until you see how much saturated fat is in milk. You're more likely to get to that spin class if you keep a picture of yourself of when you were back in the day, lean and lithe, playing lacrosse. That's why we encourage you to define a higher purpose for your goal. Staying fit can be a higher purpose, but for most people it doesn't touch the emotion. Getting to that cycling class because you want to stay mentally sharp to meet the standard of the affiliates of the University of California may inspire that elephant more. Or perhaps it could be your training for one of those charity walks or runs or rides. Or maybe the idea that you're setting a good example for your kids is moving to you, or maybe because you want to live longer to see your grandkids. If you work towards a higher purpose, you're more likely to keep on that path and feel better about it. Third, shape the path. Don't allow for deviations. What sometimes seems like a people problem is often a situational problem. If there are Butterfingers in the cupboard, someone's got to eat them. Get rid of them. If you have to drive out of your way to get to that spin class, you're less likely to go. Reduce the options to get off track. Finally, you should choose goals that are attractive to you, not to what others think is right for you. If you're not emotionally engaged in your journey, your intellect will look at many options and get stuck in the analysis paralysis, and your elephant will take another course. As the old adage goes, follow your dreams, or you'll work for somebody who did. As Oprah Winfrey says, the key to realizing a dream is to focus not on the success, but on the significance. And then even the small steps and a little victories along the path will take on a greater meaning.